Hi, I'm Marcia McCarrow.
Hello, I'm Carol Cooper.
And we're here today with Steve West. And Steve is going to do a training session with us today called The Power of Vulnerability. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Marcia. Hello, Carol. How are you?
Hi.
We're good, thank you. Very well.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you to my collaboration with Marcia and Carol, which is with gratitude that I'm here today talking about the power of vulnerability through personal experience and through discovering your best consultancy limited with Carol and Marcia. And this is an amazing opportunity. And my name is Steve West. I'm a hospitality teacher and assessor of students, and a lot of this is talking about how in real terms you can take power of vulnerability yourself and how we can explore as we go along. I'm also the author of Fathers and Mothers, which actually talks about real life, heart in your sleeve stories about also supporting how in times of adversity you can come together and have a good life. So really, the thoughts in your mind are shattered, broken, you feel lost, overwhelmed, especially at times of adverse conditions and consequences which actually come over us. But there is a true internal power and a positive vulnerability and really making it real for yourself. So today we're going to talk about embracing your vulnerability, using vulnerability when visualizing. I will explain that at a later time, how you can visualize and make it real for yourself. Vulnerability, meditation, putting the tools in place to put yourself in a much better place. And we're going to explore the focal points helping to move forward. So first, what is vulnerability? And there are many faces of vulnerability. There are the physical ones, being those vulnerable adults, children, illness, and many obvious types of physical vulnerability. The other types of vulnerability, the emotional one, that's linked to negative emotions such as stress, anxiety, mental health issues. For example, how many times have you had your Sunday night emails setting you up for the Monday morning, your bills to pay? But in actual fact, the imaginary future is it's apparently upsetting, and many corporate companies now are not doing that anymore, thank goodness, and it's quite a nice thing to see that they've recognised that, and I think that's really important for these corporate people to understand that completely. And so really, this is where you can decide what types of triggers have you had for anxiety. And so you can write down your own triggers, what sets you off. But the type I want to discuss today is the other side we don't see or recognise. And it came to me that it isn't actually the meaning of life, it's rather the life of meaning. And that is really flipping the idea of, we keep asking the questions, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Rather, what we should be saying to ourselves is really, how do you achieve the life of meaning? And today, we're going to explore that and actually open up these ideas of it for you to take on board, use these as a tool. This is not a place, this is a safe place for you to come back to the videos and have a look through. C.S. Lewis, to love is to be vulnerable. And I think it's a lovely saying in itself, really. And it brings about recognizing those times where you will feel vulnerable. Okay, so what is meant by that? The Stoic said, if I lose my job, my happiness is only affected if I react to the circumstances badly. And they talk about controlling the reactions and not the emotions. And they thought we can control or overcome our emotions by controlling our reactions. And that's important to understand. And I'm going to bring in a real true life story, really, about when I was a single parent and I had bills to pay. I'm going to be completely frank here because this is what it's about. I wanted the day to end. What would it be like if I wasn't here? Until one day I realised that my boys, my children, 8 and 11 at the time, were safely tucked up in bed, and I found that they became my rock. So by opening up to that adverse understanding, that deep warmth that they brought about me, it was hard to wake up each day and trying to get through the day. And that was the personal turning point in my life. About basically, at the time, the road was unclear, and you have to be patient with yourself. And with these tools, you'll be patient with yourself to reach where you need to be in life. What you do today will matter tomorrow. And in short, it's becoming familiar with this new feeling. So with my children, it then brought about a certain amount of perspective in what was important. I lost my house. Could I sustain the house? It was only bricks and mortar at the end of the day. And that was important. So it brought about a certain amount of perspective in our lives. So when we start feeling that positive and conscious vulnerability, this is where the perspectives turn in place. And when I realised my children were actually my rock, the idea of perspective being, it is only bricks and mortar, these are only the physical rather than the ethereal, real warmth that we need to discover inside ourselves. Perspective brings about the birthplace of priorities. I needed to fight for my children to have a home, food, warmth, comfort. But then I started teaching. Then you start taking on board about living in the moment, embracing that time when you can look forward to actually living the next day with that warmth and comfort, with that vulnerable feeling. And then where it comes about is then start to understand and recognizing limited beliefs that hold you back, the I can't do's. These are really the residual feelings or residual instructions that are brought about by when we were children. You can't do this because we impart guilt on our children on occasions. But those residual thoughts start coming into your adulthood. And these are negatives that are validated really by other people's opinions. And they're fueled by other people's opinions, but then because of these limited beliefs, it puts a block up on your real intrinsic human way to move forward and how you should move forward. And then you ask yourself, what is their intention that they're saying these things to me? And by recognizing these limiting beliefs, you then start to unblock them. And when you start to unblock them and you embrace the vulnerability, then you'll start seeing opportunities more than you will ever know before. But really, before we start visualizing, we have to understand that limiting beliefs are shackles. They are the limiting beliefs that actually imprison our mind. We don't realize in it, and they're subconscious instruction manuals from when we're growing up. It brings about self-doubt, fear, which this induces the anxiety. And as we go along through the slides and the training, I want to put in these tools that will actually negate the anxiety and challenging your limiting beliefs. They're going to be tricky, but challenge them you must. So before you visualize, as you can see by that little image there, it's a matter of unshackling your mind, journalizing your limiting thoughts. What triggers me? What triggers you? What is that focal point what actually starts to trigger your negative thoughts? Now we're going to start talking about new starting points. What's the real challenge? And the real challenge is really the ego. And the ego is something that human beings can't see, but it will push you back. It's like it doesn't want you to have a really good life. It doesn't want you to be happy. It doesn't want you to understand yourself. And this is where the ego comes in. And if you like, as a visualization, the ego can be described as a barking dog inside you, the anxiety in your stomach. And if you could see it as trying to tame that dog, it's trying to tame the ego. We'll put in a strategy in a bit to show you how to tame the ego. Then you can start looking forward in your life and open up to the idea of positivity as well. For instance, have you ever noticed when you are feeling happy, you have goals, you have dreams, that things are really going your way, the road is clear and it's sunny, it's on top of the world, then all of a sudden, out of the blue, life throws down the gauntlet, challenge your life, challenging you on the life that you deserve and you sincerely want. And this is a promise. The problem is, the bigger the dream, life has a way of pushing you back. That is going back to the ego. And this is where we need to negate the ego. And it will happen. How many times have you thought, I really want to do this, or your car breaks down, or you want to go somewhere, you have a really good day planned. Well, this sometimes out of the blue, seriously, it will just come out because it doesn't want you to crack on with your life and have a good life. But I can tell you now, it will happen. It does happen. The real challenge really is validating limiting beliefs. And this is validated by other people's opinions, like I discussed before. I'm not good enough. I have self-doubt. My inbox is being filled. The workload is too much. Okay, and then suddenly your world can seem like a mess. Your goals, your dreams, they feel like they're crashing down. And these are not real, because sometimes it's a matter of not taking it personally. It's only your ego and your own limiting beliefs that are stopping you from actually, they're making you feel so negative about yourself. Now, generally, the default setting of a person is negativity, because that then becomes your comfort zone. just sometimes taking ownership of that vulnerability on occasions, and just taking a moment and so with that taking of the moment, and like we mentioned before, the future of your life is really just a fable of a story not yet told. And what are you going to do today that's going to really help you with tomorrow? You need to take moments for yourself, your conscious, become positive. Vulnerability will start to become real. Vulnerability will come alive, negating negativity and clearing the sunny paths for you. And I can tell you now, you will come up with detours. You will come up with the road that's not really that clear. And then once you start opening up to these moments of conscious vulnerability, then you will see the path come clear. The key focal points of change usually come about when adverse conditions happen, and these dig deep into our soul: sorrow, mourning, distraught, anxiety, trouble, breakup of a long-term relationship. These are the focal points where we don't realise that vulnerability wants us to change. Vulnerability wants us to move forward. How many times at these points that you can see in front of you now that it jolts you, and how many times has it been said, life's too short, changes need to be made? And yet, if we don't embrace these moments of time, there's no chance of moving forward. And the danger is to go back to our default setting of our comfort zone of anxiety, fear. And it is our comfort zone. It's our human beings' pattern of behavior. It's our default setting. We cannot go back to our default setting. And if you write down your journal, it is your navigator of life. Write down those moments. Remember, please, it's okay to not be okay. It really is okay to not be okay. You're allowed. Unlock your maze, take ownership of that vulnerability, those moments in time, those focal moments. There are all these people out there to help you and give you the best chance that you can give yourself. And that's important to realise. Don't be embarrassed by, oh, I'm not good enough. These are instructions from your past. It's a crossroads. It is sincerely a crossroads. Why we don't accept change is too risky, induces anxiety. I'm not good enough, limited beliefs, low self-esteem, limiting beliefs, self-doubt, failure, fear, embarrassment. Is it risky to pick up the phone and ask for help? No. Is it fearful? Quite possibly. And ask yourself the question, why? Why are these? Why do you not accept change? That's your comfort zone. That's a default setting for human beings. When we do accept change, take more risks, have no fear. The tools and strategies we're going to put into place today will make you feel good enough. Self-worth instead of self-doubt. The only failure really in life is failing not to try again and again and again. And then your new magic zone is where the magic will happen. It becomes your new safe zone because you'll understand that these feelings of anxiety are not real. They're born by some unseen thing that doesn't want you to be where the magic happens. By reducing your limited beliefs, don't validate, start to believe in you. Once you start taking the moments to focus on positive intentions, your intrinsic gut instinct will be your compass. Through those moments of stress, anxiety, the comfort zone, be honest, make it real, name it, own it, and work with it. But you can only work with it if you feel that you're allowing yourself to grow. And that's what it is. Negative feelings and anxiety, they steal time. By gaining this positive vulnerability, it will give you back that time. And how many times have you thought to yourself, I feel awful, I can't do this anymore? That's stealing time. Don't let it steal time from you. Make it real. The head and the heart, the real gut instinct. The differences are really, the head really is the thinking part of us. It deals with the ego. It thinks too much. It brings forward residual thoughts, instructions that we had from our childhoods. But on the flip side, how many times has your gut instinct really proved you right and proved the head wrong? Because fear and anxiety is our default setting, we don't trust it that much. Because our mind and head and gut, a little bit of fight with each other. And that's important to understand, that we need to separate the two. And your gut instinct, the feeling that you will gain from embracing vulnerability, will become stronger and stronger. So really, to recapture what we talked about, we're going to, 4 cornerstones here really: the capturing of that vulnerability at those moments, put perspective in place, recognize your limiting beliefs to negate the ego to move forward. The time of change really sometimes is to do with the past that we can't see. It's in here. We have to recognize that. We have to make it real. And as I've written here, life path is what has passed. Notice the present, notice the now. What we decide to do with what's gone is up to us. Please remember, our past lives are not the sum of us, but they don't define us. We start now defining ourselves. New starting points, new moving forward points. I can promise you, we all have the power of change. So really, I'm going to finish with Mary Curie, who says, nothing in life is to be feared, it's only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so we can fear less. And on that, I would like to just recap on what we talked about. Embracing our vulnerability with perspective and priorities. Use the tool of vulnerability when visualizing, recognizing limited beliefs as your new starting point to move on positively. Take the moment and meditation. Find your own level, find your path and how you do that. It's important to be in the moment. It really is, because of clarity, it will remove blocks and it will become your positive vulnerability. And that's where you start opening up more. Explore the focal points, journalize them to help you move forward. These will become the tools of perspective. What is real, what's not. bringing the warmth, and lastly, just disaffirm the negative feelings. And on that, I'd like to thank you very much for the chance to speak about this. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Steve.
We've got lots of points, I'm sure, that we want to go through and clarify. I don't know, Carol, if you want to start with your questions first of all.
Just got to get them in some sort of order. I keep scribbling all this down, and like, you know, other very interesting sessions we've had with other people, it's really hard to come back. But the magic that becomes the now and the comfort zone in that resonated with me quite a lot, and I'm sure it will do with a lot of people watching this recording as well. Because I mean, all the things you said are so real and obviously, you know, very poignant to a lot of people. But to the magic of what is now and the comfort zone, what is now, it's about sorting yourself out. I took on board from that.
Yeah.
And trying to recognize not being negative.
Yeah.
So the comfort zone is negativity, isn't it? And that's what I get. It's like having a comfortable hammock, because you're going, oh, right, okay, we'll leave that. But the bravado of it all is that when you face it, you stand up and you look at it, you know. So I just want people to appreciate, obviously, all things that have been said today, but mainly the biggest message and question, message is comfort zone. But the magic is now. When did you first realize that, Steve? When did the light go on for you?
Way back when I was a single parent, I didn't realize it now until later on. But the real magic was when I started to take ownership of my life, my own path, by going into teaching. Like that, it was said before, what are you going to do today about tomorrow? And really, it was taking ownership. It's driving forward and negating the fear, actually, to be honest. I know some people who are excellent businessmen, very driven. I've spoken to them personally, and they have no fear. And it comes back to Mary Curie about being fearless. They have no fear. They don't understand vulnerability. They have no vulnerability in their vocabulary. Mm. And I think that's when the light came on, when I took ownership, started to meet people who validated my positive beliefs and validated my taking ownership and being brave and not having any fear, I think. Good question, Carol, thanks.
The other one, can I just, that really resonates with me, is about this gut instinct. My gut instinct, as I know Marcia and I have these gut instincts, and we're usually right.
Yeah.
And you're talking about what you're thinking, what your heart's feeling, but what's going on in there. And the times that I've tripped myself up thinking, oh, that gut instinct, that's not right. Mm-hmm. And you could kick yourself afterwards because you know you were. So, you know, people listening to that really inspired me to carry on and make me stronger in my thought and belief in myself and my gut instinct. And I hope it does, you know, a lot with other people, as do lots of these points that, you know, that you brought up over the time. And we all have the power of change. And part of that, to me, links up with a gut instinct. Because your gut instinct might not be what you thought first thing in the day.
Correct.
By lunchtime, your guts could be telling you, your gut instinct could be telling you something completely different.
Yeah, I see the gut instinct. That is really strange. We can't see it. It's not tangible.
No.
And yet, it's like a barking dog on occasions. Or, yes, that's right, that's wrong. But sometimes people are too fearful to speak up. Yeah. And it's like a barking dog, and if they can calm that barking dog of the ego, name your dog if you like, calm it, put it to sleep, try and have a tool to put into place. It might help.
Yeah, that's just really strong with me, that I'll hand back over to Marcia for now, and I'll just carry on reading through my little notes here, seeing what else I come up with. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, Steve, you've touched on so many different areas and so many different concepts, really, today. And I know you've extended the opportunity for people to contact you directly if they want to know more or want any support in any way. I'm really, really grateful that you're doing that. I just want to clarify with you a few of the areas that you've talked about so that people understand what you mean.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Some of the concepts, obviously, you're very rehearsed in this. You know your onions, as Caroline would say.
Yeah, that's one.
But I suppose it's about, for me, it's making sure we break it down so people understand where you're coming from. And the first thing you touched on very early in your presentation was about positive or conscious vulnerability. What exactly do you mean by that? Positive or conscious vulnerability? Yeah,
people often see vulnerabilities. You're susceptible to damage, abuse. There's a connotation about the word vulnerability, especially what's happening currently. What I was trying to say was there's a vulnerability we don't know is there unless it's explained to us. And it's those moments of adverse conditions, the mourning period, the fearful stuff, the sorrow, the breaking up, and it opens up to us this vulnerable side to us that we do not recognise unless we are told that that's the point you're going to be vulnerable. You either capture that or you go back to the default setting of the comfort zone, which Carol mentioned before. And then if you start then embracing that part of that side of vulnerability, then you start to see more positive things in your life happening, more cotton wool type things, and it opens up to more positive opportunities, and more importantly, it opens it up to you to understand yourself, to go deeper inside yourself, to start visualizing more, put you on a different path. And I think that's the point of it. It's that point. Open yourself up, start to understand you, and be less fearful, and try and get rid of negativity.
Yeah. So whereas vulnerability is usually seen as something that can hold you back and keep you stuck and prevent you from moving forward, what you're in essence saying is that opening up to your vulnerability and recognizing it, bringing it into that conscious awareness level, enables you to be a better version of you, because you can use that vulnerability almost as your personal part of your personal power.
Correct,
you know, in terms of empowering you to move forward. And I like that idea that it's vulnerability is seen always as that negative down, when actually what you're describing here is a more positive approach to vulnerability. When you talk about sorry, carry on.
No, it goes back to the focal points really, and it's really those focal points that are the new starting point for your opening you up. Don't let it go. Don't let it pass you by. Because what do? We go through the process of mourning, and then that is the psychological process of what we're going through. And actually, there's more to it than that. There's a deeper side to it, which I'm trying to tap into now. Sorry to interrupt you, Marcia.
No, that's a great piece of clarification there. Thank you. You talk about also journaling and your limiting beliefs. What do you mean by journaling?
Journalizing. I like to like a pathway, if you like. Journaling will be like navigate your, write down how you feel at those moments in time. I have a little book which I had when I started to teach. I always enjoyed little bits of writing and stuff. Back in 2009, I journalised how I felt when I went through teaching about the whiteout. I journalised about how this was a good day because, and I can look back on that and go, actually, I'm at such a better place than I was then. I didn't realise that the world was a brilliant place at that moment in time, but I journalised it because I always felt it was important to journalise the date, the time. On 2009, I had a white teacher came up to me because then sometimes we have false memories. We have false memories sometimes, and we like to, oh, that was a good day. Yes, because, but did it really happen? No, you're not going to know unless you write it down.
Yeah, really important. You know, the fact that you're able then to reflect on what you've journaled is quite powerful, isn't it? To see things in your own hand.
Definitely, yeah.
Written about.
Yes.
As long as that's done in a constructive way. Journaling. I suppose you can talk to people that make contact with you about how that journaling can be done in a constructive way, because
for sure.
you don't want is people on a spiral just writing down negative thoughts. There's a way to journal, isn't there, that helps them. But we can, we can put people your way if they want to learn more about that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I find that writing, it has two sides to it. One, we've just discussed about the reflecting on it. Two, it's so cathartic. It is so. It's such a unraveling. It's really cathartic as well.
Yeah. What was interesting for me is that you talk about vulnerability as if it's a person. So when I'm listening to you talk about it, it's almost like it's somebody outside of your being, rather than something that is, although you talk about intrinsic and extrinsic in your presentation, but it's almost as if it's something that's extrinsic, which I find really, really interesting, because up until now, all the stuff that I've read and looked at around the subject of vulnerability has talked about it in terms of the feelings that we get, not looking at vulnerability as a and I love that. I really like that, because that helps you then to tackle it.
Yes, yeah. If you like we talked about the ego and the barking dog. Yeah, do you know what? Visualizing the vulnerability, and at the end there, making it real, making it your own. That would be a great exercise for somebody to visualize something that's positive in their life. When I visualize it, do you call it? Do you give it a name? Fred the vulnerable. Do you name the rose earlier
that happens a lot, doesn't it, in terms of therapy and also in mentoring and coaching, we use that technique.
Well, I did actually, that naming it, for sure, name it, and making it real, bring it to the forward, negates the barking dog. It is a visual thing, I think, and that helps. It's not just a matter of words or PowerPoint. It's about making it real and visualizing that. It smells, music, and I'm thinking back. I know exactly the moment when I found that vulnerability with the children on the couch. They were upstairs and safe, and that was important. Whether I recognised it then, not quite. Do I realise the value of it now? Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, visualize it, name it, own it, stroke it, look after it, nurture it. Yes, very true. You're very true, Marcia. Very true indeed.
I think.
Sorry, Cece, carry on.
Just a comment, really, overall. Just looking at vulnerable people, or the subject of vulnerability, it does give you life experiences, doesn't it? It does teach you being vulnerable, to learn from that, as you say, as you so rightly say. But the inner feeling, going back to that gut feeling, but the inner feeling of when you can actually say to somebody that you understand, and for them to know that and recognize that is immense. And I get that from all of this morning, you know, all of this work that we've gone through this morning, or that you've obviously been talking about. And I just think that message to people is important, and for them to recognize that is a message. Being vulnerable is not, you know, a catastrophe in your life. No, it is one that brings on a great, huge area of understanding. So that's what I've got from today.
Thank you.
So that was great.
Just a couple more bits before we finish off, because I'm just going through it, because I really want to make sure there's clarification for the people that are watching the training session. You talk about fear, and we understand that fear is that it surrounds us, and it can also be stuff that drives us forwards as well as keeping us stuck where we are. But in your mind, the difference between not feeling the fear that you talked about and calculated risk, how do those two things fit together?
People are fearful on different levels. One could be basic, bringing in money for food, bills, etc. By recognizing the hurdles of fear, by taking calculated risks, you know you're going to come up against times when things are not going to be 100%, or you start your own business, let's say, and you're taking a calculated risk, and as you go on, you have the tools within yourself to get over the fear, knowing full well that the fear is short-lived, because you will take another calculated risk. The fear, if you like, are like detours in the road. And as a small business, you can maybe negotiate the fear. You know it's going to be there anytime, because it's scary starting your own business. Very scary. The pitfalls are going to be there. But by just going for stuff, putting stuff into place, making moves towards starting your own business, and I use business as a really good example here. The fear's going to come up anyway, but then you learn to deal with it. And then there are people out there who have no fear, who just go for it regardless, and they'll take the consequences, but they're go-getters. And they'll push fear aside. It's there. They'll push it aside. Actually, do you know what? Let's go down that route.
Yeah, the jump and the net will appear brigade, I think. You know.
And the detour itself actually might take you down a better road. Yeah. So the detour is not so much, oh my goodness, it's just, okay, let's just negate it. Let's just move around it, see how we can work with it. And that's probably, does that explain what I'm trying to say to you, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, fear is an important part of the vulnerability, isn't it? And actually you need to embrace both of those, and you can sort of soften the fear.
Correct, yes.
By having, you know, calculating the risk. But sometimes you just have to jump. And going back to what CC was saying, you know, it's part, I suppose, of building resilience.
Oh yes,
you know, it all intertwines, doesn't it, and interlinks.
For sure.
Interlinks together. Steve, I just want to say thank you so much for bringing this topic in this refreshing way to us, for us to explore today. And if you would be so kind as to let people know again just how they can contact you if they want to explore any of the issues that you've presented on today?
Yes, I'd love to. And once again, thank you for the opportunity. This is so special, so special. You can contact me through stevebwest1.co.uk, where I have blogs about mental well-being and how to maybe change perspective as well. And you will find all my social media accounts at the links on stevebwest1.co.uk. And I can promise you there are no pop-ups there, none like anything like this. It is what it is, you know, it's just a website and you just enjoy it. It's all about me, it's all about you. Please get in contact. So I have a chat app on there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Steve, for being with us today.
Thank you, Steve. I enjoyed that immensely. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you very much indeed. You take care and good mental health.